everyone. Welcome to the Stop, Drop, and Knit podcast. My name is Lisa. I am coming to you from Long Island, New York. Today is Friday, October 27th. And yeah, let me tell you all a little bit about my podcast. I have had a lot of new viewers with my last episode about the Geogradient controversy. So whether you just tuned in for that one episode or if you're back to see what my podcast is about, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what you can expect on this channel. So this is primarily a knitting podcast, but I also do some spinning and I do quite a bit of natural dyeing. So yeah, those are the three biggest areas of focus. I have been quite busy out in the woods these past few weeks. So not too much knitting has been getting done. I've been taking advantage of the foraging season to gather all of the mushrooms and other types of materials that I use for my natural dyeing projects. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, knitting, spinning, and natural dyeing is what you are going to find in this area of the internet. So thank you for joining me today. Today's episode, I think, might be a little bit different than normal. I have not been doing that much knitting. As I mentioned earlier, it's been a busy time, and I've also really been taking advantage of the rainy weather. Everybody's been complaining about it raining consistently here every Saturday, but I have not been complaining because it makes for good mushroom hunting. So today I am planning to share about what I'm wearing, and because this was dyed with mushrooms, I also happen to have some of the mushrooms that I have been foraging for lately because they are in season right now. So I have some of those to share with you, and I'm hoping that I can get my son to come on a little walk with me in a little while when he comes home from school and take you into the woods and actually try to show you how to forage for these mushrooms yourself, how to identify them. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I also have a Geogradient shawl update. So just clue one, it's not even done. So no spoiler alerts here. You guys have all seen all of that. But I wanted to share the progress and what direction I've been going with that. That might be about it for today. But I think it's going to be fun, educational, interesting, and hopefully include a lot of beautiful scenery. The woods right now are so gorgeous. So anyway, if any of that sounds interesting to you, I hope you will stick around and watch this episode. I forgot to mention that I have some new items available in my shop, so I will be also talking about that later on towards the end of this episode. So I don't want to inundate you with shop updates. So I'm going to save those for the end. So if you guys are interested in those, then we'll do that later. But yeah, let's talk about what I'm wearing first and foremost. A lot of you probably recognize this sweater. Maybe many of you have knit it yourself. I am wearing Locatelli's Lace and Fade Boxy today, and I love this sweater so much. So I'm going to stand up so that you guys can see all of the beautiful faded colors in my sweater. So I'm going to come a little bit closer too, and I don't know if we can see all of them, but I've got all of those happening. So this sweater, I used a combination of my naturally dyed mushroom yarns, and a commercial yarn is what I used for the lace mohair. The lace mohair is Lang lace, and don't remember what color it is. I probably have that if I have my project page updated. I should make sure that I have my Lace and Fade Boxy project page updated on Ravelry. So I will do that before I upload this podcast so that you have that information for this yarn here. But I wanted to share about the yarns. Oh, no, stay out of that, buddy. My rabbit just found my mushrooms that I wanted to talk about. So they're not edible, so I wanted to move those out of his way. Felix, do you want to come say hi really quick? Since you jumped up? No, you're going to run away. Okay. Hey, bud. Okay. So we just didn't want to have a disaster there. I may as well start off by showing you the mushroom that I used to dye the yarn that I used to knit this sweater. So this is my favorite, one of my favorite dye mushrooms, and this is called the Cortinarius semisanguineus, or it could be pronounced semisanguineus. I actually have no idea of the pronunciation, but this little mushroom here, so it's identifiable by, it's got this cute little bump in the middle that sticks up. And when you're walking in the woods, and I hope to show you later, you see like these little hats sticking up. But underneath are these beautiful red gills. Look at how red and beautiful those are. So this mushroom is so fun to work with because you can get such a range of colors depending on how you process it. All of the yarn that I used was mordanted with alum, aluminum sulfate. And so when you mordant the yarn with alum, you're going to bring out more of the pinks with the gills underneath the cap, so you guys can see again those beautiful red gills will give you the pinks for this mushroom. There is another type of Cortinarius mushroom which I'm not lucky to find very often. I found a small bit of them just the other day, and those are the Cortinarius sanguineus. So these are the semi-sanguineus. The others are the sanguineus, and those have like a blood red cap, a red stem, and the red gills. Those will give you true reds. I have not been lucky enough to find so many of those, but these little guys are super prominent right now here. So I'm so excited. Like, I am out in the woods almost every day gathering these because of how much I love to use these for the yarn. So I can't wait to show you the leftovers that I have. So this is a really fun mushroom to work with because you can also get purples from this. And believe it or not, even though purple is my favorite, I haven't tried that yet. So I'm finding so many of those this year that I think that this year is the year that I'm gonna have to try and see if I can bring out the purples. Basically, the purples will come out if you pre-mordant the yarn first with iron instead of alum sulfate. So I don't often pre-mordant with iron. Iron is a very tricky substance to work with. You cannot leave it on the yarn for very long because it can start to break down the fibers. So you just have to know to be very careful when you're working with iron. So I mainly work with yarn that I pre-mordant with alum instead. And so what's really fun about this mushroom is you can get different colors out of it throughout several different dye baths. So I'm gonna break this apart and show you guys. Oh, I feel like I just killed this mushroom. But you can separate the stems and the caps. So I just did that. So this is the cap and what the gills look like on the other side. So, and obviously this is the stem. So you can see that the cap is where most of the red is. And there's just little hints of it in the stem. So for this yarn, what I did was I separated the caps and I used just the caps for the dye baths. And I used these in other dye baths, not for this sweater. But if you just want to use the stems, you can bring out more of the yellows. So I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to show you the yarns. Oh, if you decide to use the whole mushroom in the dye bath, you get kind of more of an orange tinted pink. So you'll still get a lot of like a heavy pink, but it'll have a little bit more of an orange tint in it because of all of the yellow color from the stems combined with the yellow, the brownish yellow from like this part of the cap here. So this mushroom is so fun because of the endless possibilities. Okay. So now that you've seen the mushroom, I want to show you that this was the yarn that I got from using just the caps. It is so pretty. And it comes out quite naturally variegated, which I just think is so beautiful. Just this is my favorite. I love it so much. So this is the one that I used for the darkest part of my fade at the bottom of my sweater. So the way that the mushroom dye baths work is, in order to get this type of saturation on your yarn, you need to just put one skein of yarn in at a time. Oh my gosh, it is a slow process. Normally when I'm working with other plant materials, I can put 4 or 5 skeins in at once for a dye bath. And if you're working with extracts or any other type of material, you can usually put in quite a bit of yarn. But for the mushrooms, if you want to get this much color on your yarn, it needs to be just one skein at a time. And you might only have enough to get one skein that looks like this. So it's a very special dyeing process. And I think that the fact that you can't just dye a million skeins and get the same color makes it truly special. So if I wanted to try to get this same color again, I would have to start with a whole new batch of mushrooms in the dye bath and again just put one skein in. But the Cortinarius mushrooms do still have a lot of color in them. So these were perfect for this lace and fade boxy, because every time you put the next skein in, it's going to start to have a little bit less saturation of color and you end up with a beautiful gradient. So the next one in that dye bath still had a lot of color, but you can see a lot of the deeper pinks now are gone and we're getting more of that peach leaning towards the orange. Even though I used the caps only, remember that the caps had the gills, and so the first time you put them in, you're going to draw out all of those reds from the gills. But then once this skein of yarn has absorbed all of those colors, you're going to start to have more of the yellow from the cap, the top of the cap for the semi-sanguineous. Still has a lot of golden, orange, brownish yellow in it. So now we're leaning more towards orange, but it's like a pinkish peach, and it is so beautiful. So that's the next color that I used in my fade over here. And now everything is going to get successively lighter. So this is probably the last skein of the dye bath that had any color in it. And I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but there is actually still quite a bit of color in there. Yeah, I think you guys can see that. Yeah, but it's also quite variegated now at this point because there's just less color in the dye bath. And so you'll get part of the yarn that draws out the color and absorbs it. And then the color, you know, just whatever you have left is going to be there. So all right, so those are the first three colors, and so then you can see that this color here, I don't even know how much you can see, but there's like little stripes. Yeah, you guys can see, I think you guys can see that. It's subtle, but there's still like very light stripes of that pink. I wonder if I can get the light to hit it a little bit better. If I go towards the window a little. I think you guys can see that. There's like a little bit of a pink, light pink striping. So, and then this next one here, this was now using the exhaust bath. There was still a little bit of color. So this is another, oh, we're getting a shadow now. You can still see like the very faintest bit of pink is coming up into this yarn. So the one that I just showed you so that you can see them back to back. All of a sudden now that I'm holding this one with an even lighter one, you can actually really see how much color it is. Elmi, it's okay, you'll get some playtime in a bit. My rabbit wants to come out and play. It's okay, buddy. You're being kind of noisy there. I know. We'll let you out later. I'm gonna have to put Felix in the bedroom if you want to come out. Okay, so yeah, so you know, these were the three that I just held up for you, right? And when I hold just these three together, it is difficult to see the color in this one. But then when I add the next lightest one, you can see that that one still has quite a bit of color in it. So all of a sudden when I take the two darker ones away and just hold these two together, you can see that there is actually quite a big difference between them. And then what I used for the sleeves and the main color of my sweater was, I don't remember. I think that this was an exhaust bath, but from the stems only. So it's like a little bit more, it's a little bit more of that yellow in there. And it's hard to tell if that is showing up or not. But you can see that those are all distinctly different. So, yeah, that is, I'm putting these down. So that is what I used for my lace and fade boxy. So, and I just thought that it was the perfect pattern to showcase the faded ombre effect of this mushroom yarn. I thought it was really fun. So I thought that this was just the perfect project to feature all of these yarns together. I'm going to hold all 5 of them up together so that you can see that gradient there. This all came from just one mushroom, which I just think is amazing. So for the lace parts, the bands of lace, I had just finished knitting Laura Penrose's souffle tee with this mohair yarn, and I had leftovers, and I just thought that it was the perfect shade to bring out all of these colors again. of the mushroom, and just the coordination between that color of the lace mohair and this mushroom was just beautiful. I think that this Lace and Fade Boxy is one of my more special sweaters because it's using yarn that I dyed myself with a mushroom that I foraged for myself. The really fun thing about using the mushrooms is that you cannot purchase them in any form, actually. You might be able to trade another mushroom hunter for them if you're so lucky, but you cannot purchase the mushrooms. They are not possible to cultivate and get extracts from. So the only way that you can obtain these colors on the yarn is to go out in the woods and find them yourself. So that is what we are going to do next. So I am going to pause my video. We're gonna go get Owen from the bus, and then in a little bit I'm gonna take you into the woods and we're gonna see if we can find some of these mushrooms ourselves. So come on with me. Okay, here's our first Cortinarius find for the day. Usually they're in clusters, but this one's just kind of lonely by itself. But, where is my hand here? You can see it's got that little bump in the middle, and then underneath, look at that bright red gills. This is Cortinarius semi-sanguinea. Okay, so I'm going to show you how difficult it is to spot these guys. Even looking through right now, I'm having a hard time seeing it. There is one Cortinarius in this picture. Owen, can you show everybody where it is? Yeah, can you grab it? Okay. Yeah, go nice and slow. Hold it in front of this part of the camera. There we go. Beautiful though. Can you show everybody what the cap looks like? Innocent looking brown mushroom from the top, but underneath, hold it steady, your hand's in the way. There you go. I'm going to zoom in, hold it nice and still. With those bright red, oh, hold it still. There we go, bright red gills. Gorgeousness. Hi, Owen.
Hi.
What did we just find a couple of?
Flame chanterelle.
Can you turn around and show us on the camera? I'm going to zoom in. So, hold on, hold it still. I'm going to zoom in. So, these are some really nice edibles. Move your hand. I don't know. Move your hand, bud. Good. Yeah, flame chanterelles, and there are a couple little top. Okay, hold on. Okay, that's the top. Yeah, and
Look, guys, there's more right there.
so there's more.
There's more over here.
More right here. So yeah, we're gonna collect these because I found some chanterelles the other day, same kind, and we have yet to cook them up. So. Yeah, we're gonna do that within the next day or two. On the other side of this fence, there are one Cortinarius.
Two Cortinarius.
There's another one there.
Four Cortinarius right there.
There's another one there, but I don't know if there's a way around this fence.
Let me climb over it.
No, dangerous. Okay, so we did manage to find a little opening in the fence. And I wanted to show you guys what they look like when they're younger, too. So,
you can see the difference? This is a Cortinarius semi-sanguineus.
Give me one of those little ones, please. Okay. So these, so you see they're kind of this mustard gold color. You keep dropping them.
No, those.
And then you can barely see underneath. There's the red. We found a handful of the big ones. So you see how there's that bump in the middle, and then the gills underneath. So I hope you all enjoyed that little trip into the woods. I didn't actually film too much footage yet. Hopefully I'll get back there this weekend before I edit the video. But let's just say that Owen didn't really want to go out into the woods today, so I kind of had to drag him there a little bit, and he wasn't being the most cooperative, so I didn't have my camera on for just more than a little bit. That is okay though. I've got lots of beautiful pictures from my recent visits into the woods, so I'll try to put in some photos at the end of this video. And now I am ready to talk about my works in progress. Rather, really just my one work in progress, and that is Stephen West's Geogradient Mystery Knitalong shawl. Oh my goodness, you guys, I am so far behind. I am so far behind. I am not even finished with clue 1 yet, and clue 4 just came out yesterday. And I was stuck in jury duty yesterday. Thankfully, I got released because apparently in the Supreme Court, knitting needles are strictly prohibited. I was there for just 2 hours. I'm not a morning person, so I struggle in the morning. My coffee was in the car. My knitting was in the car. I had a book, very interesting book, but without my coffee, and with it being very warm and very quiet in that room, I was struggling, you all. I was struggling to stay awake. It was really, really rough. So after the 2 hours, when they must have settled whatever case because the attorneys never came down to pick a jury and we all got released, thank goodness. But I was thinking how during that 2 hours, I could have made so much more progress and maybe even finished clue 1 finally so that I could get a little bit caught up. But no, knitting needles are too dangerous. I mean, I see their point. People these days are, you know, people are people. And you just can't trust anybody. So, I mean, I get it. But anyway, so before I show you my clue 1 progress, I'm not even going to bother with a spoiler alert because at this point, the controversy video that I posted last time, and we're on clue 4, and I'm not even showing you a complete clue 1. So yeah, so no spoiler alerts today, but regardless, you can skip ahead if you want to, but I want to show you the yarns that I am using. So the Mystery Knitalong is Geogradient. So the idea is that you have a gradient that you knit the shawl from. And so this is mine. Obviously, I am using my own naturally dyed yarns. And I shopped my shop, which, you know, is not the best idea for making money, but you got to do what you got to do. And this is also giving me an opportunity to test out my Luxe base. So this is, oh my gosh, let me see if I can remember. I think it is 75% extra fine merino wool, 20% royal alpaca, and 10% mulberry silk. I knew it started with an M, but I was thinking mohair, but I knew it wasn't mohair. Mulberry silk. So 70% extra fine merino wool, 20% royal alpaca, and 10% mulberry silk. And the drape is amazing. It is so good. So I am knitting with this for the first time. Oh yeah, I forgot to say the base that I used for this sweater, the Cortinarius yarns that I was showing you earlier, those are all on my sock base, and that is 80% extra fine merino and non-superwash. All my yarns are non-superwash. And the sock yarn has 20% recycled nylon in it. So the sweater that I'm wearing is my sock yarn base, and this is my Luxe base. So all of these yarns were dyed with avocado and black walnut. So these three were all dyed with avocado. They're so pretty. So just the same way that the Cortinarius yarns work, the first dye bath produces the greatest saturation of color. And I believe that I may have messed with the pH of this one. I think I made it more basic and raised it to either a 9 or a 10 to bring out the pinks a little bit more in the avocado. So it's amazing how well this actually, it's not the same. I'm going to show you guys actually how it's different from the Cortinarius in a second. So just so you guys can see the color difference between the Cortinarius that has more of a reddish orange tint to it, and this avocado has more pink for sure. So they're totally different. Okay, and then let's see how similar these are, because these two also avocado, but I did not raise the pH. These were at a neutral pH. And this first one here was the first most saturated dye bath. And this one next to it was the exhaust bath. So you can, it's hard to see it. It almost looks like a cream, but it does have a hint of, I think I even named this one Hint of Peach. It does have a hint of peach in it. So these are my three pink, orange kind of gradient yarns. And then this one over here, this was dyed with black walnut and placed in an iron after dip. So I'm doing a lot of black walnut dyeing right now, and I believe that this was one of the exhaust baths, so it wasn't like a very, very rich brown to begin with. The black walnut produces a beautifully gorgeous rich brown. But after using, you know, the first couple of baths, I got an exhaust bath, which was a much lighter tan, bit brown kind of color. But when I put it in the iron, it made it this beautiful, it's kind of like a brownish gray. So these are the colors that are my Geogradient. And you can even see, I'm actually curious. I'm curious actually how close the avocado ones are. Much closer, actually. These you could even substitute for the Cortinarius, but not the bottom one. Okay, so you guys ready to see my clue one? I'm gonna put these down. And I dropped, where did my black walnut yarn go? Here it is. Okay. So I have only finished 75% of clue one. And this is what I have so far. It kind of looks like a bib. So I'll just hold it up. So obviously I went with the version that I showed you guys last time that I said I thought I was going to do. So it was by Pink Queen Yarns, I think is her name. I'll have to look it up, but I'll put it in the screen here. I think that's her username, is Pink Queen Yarns. And so I'm just missing the one triangle now. And so the striping is just offset each time by one color. So I liked that it gave a little bit of interest and that there were still triangles involved. And let's see, the back of mine, I've been doing the weave and Steven. So these are actually woven in, but not trimmed yet. So it looks like a hot mess back there. But I love how it's coming out so far, and I love my colors. I can't wait to actually see this outdoors in the daylight, because this, you know, in my apartment here, and it's nighttime, so I don't have any natural light coming through the window anymore, so it's just, you know, overhead lights, but I still think it looks so beautiful. So let's see, when I finish clue 1, I will take some pictures in the natural light outdoors, and if I can, I'm going to try to get clue 1 finished before I finish editing this video. So today's Friday, I've got a whole day before I'm going to upload the video to YouTube. So I'm hoping that I can manage to finish off clue 1, and if I do that, I will pop the footage in here and share it with you guys. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen, and I'm just going to look like a babbling idiot like I do right now, because nothing's going to appear. So we'll see if something appeared. Okay. So, yeah, I was really shocked how many of you tuned in to my last podcast episode. Thank you so much, and welcome if you are a new viewer, and I got a bunch of new subscribers. So if you joined me for my last video and subscribed, I welcome you here, and thank you so much. Yeah, I got a lot of feedback on that video, and I think that the majority of opinion was in Steven's court, just, you know, feeling bad for Steven, and just that he didn't intend, no, you know, we all know he didn't intend to make something that looked like a swastika. So yeah, and you know, I think that there were some people that are just kind of the opinion that if a knitter can create drama, knitters will create drama. And while that has some validity to it, I think in this case, it, you know, enough people saw it that I think Steven's response was appropriate and justified. And, you know, yeah, it kind of sucks to do a lot of knitting if you were part of that group that did a whole bunch of knitting and then didn't end up using any of that clue 1. And I know some people were like hell-bent on just sticking with the original clue no matter what. And I actually reported to Stephen West and his team, because I don't remember the person's name. They're actually pretty well known and have a huge following. But there was one person that actually posted illegally Stephen West's original Clue 1 video on YouTube. And I really advocated to get that taken down. And I alerted Stephen's team through email. And thankfully, they were successful in getting that taken down. However, I know that it exists elsewhere, which is not cool. But, you know, I can't believe that people would be that disrespectful after Stephen posted that he did not want that video up, to go ahead and steal his work because they felt that strongly that they had the right to that content. That I thought was really disheartening and just plain out wrong and obnoxious and also illegal. So yeah, so I don't usually speak up publicly on other people's videos. And in this case, though, it just, that was just so wrong. And yeah, that video needed to be taken down. So I'm glad that that got taken down. And let's see, other thoughts. I don't think I really have any other thoughts other than I'm so far behind. I don't know why I do this to myself. October is just always such a busy month, and I've never managed to keep up with the Knitalong, and I was gonna really try to do it this year, and then I think everybody got behind. I think some people have managed to do a really good job catching up. I have kind of looked ahead, not for very long, just like taking quick glimpses of the other clues, and I like where this is going. I think I saw actually Pink Queen Yarn's finished version, and thought it was really cool. I did not look at all the details of each of the clues, so even though I have an idea of what the whole thing looks like, I'm still going to be a little bit surprised each time, unless I start just looking at everybody's, which, you know, as everybody starts to release their shawls and the pictures, and it's no longer secret after this clue is finished this week. It might actually, I don't think it's even secret anymore right now because clue 4 has been released, right? So I think it's just like, you know, if you happen to see it, you happen to see it. So I'll probably just keep coming across it, and I'm not trying to keep it a secret for myself, but I'm also not actively looking for pictures of it at this time. So yeah, I am going to try to finish this up. We'll see if I get this picture up of the finished clue 1 before I upload this video. If not, hopefully within a few days after, I'll be posting it and sharing it on Instagram. And I think that's all I've got to say about it. So I always love doing a gradient. I think that no matter what the design, when you use a gradient, the overall effect and result usually turns out quite lovely. So I think that this will fall in the quite lovely category, and Stephen is brilliant. And yeah, I would love to know how you guys are getting on with your shawls, and if you are continuing, if you've abandoned it until you saw further clues. It's been a few weeks now since the whole controversy, so I'm sure that many of you are probably much farther along than I am, and I would love to see your progress. So tag me on Instagram and share it with me. Okay, let's move on to my husband's socks. So last episode, I shared with you that my husband has a birthday coming up, and his birthday is this coming Wednesday now, November 1st. And last year, I gifted him yarn to make socks. Well, for me to make him socks. And yeah, that was what I gave him. And so I have been working on the checklist of birds' socks. This was a collaboration between Andrea Rangel for the pattern and Gage Dye Works for the yarn. And this was the Great Blue Heron colorway. This thing is so big it doesn't fit on the camera. So yeah, I said that what I needed to do obviously was still knit sock 2. And the first step was winding the yarn. And so I did that. Obviously, now this is as far as I've gotten. Needless to say, I'm pretty sure this is also not going to get done by his birthday. I would like to at least have the toe cast on for his birthday. I don't know. Last time I told you guys that I'm not a toe up sock person, so just gearing up to do it for some reason yeah, I'm sure it's not that big a deal. I managed to knit one toe up sock, but at this point that was like a year ago. So now I have to do the cast on. I just remember it being so fiddly. So yeah, I'm sure it's not that big a deal, but I just have to sit down and do it. So this is the state of sock number 2. But I've got my yarn wound up, and it's really cool. I haven't actually talked about this in a while, but the way that, why is this not focusing? Focus. Why are you not focusing? There we go. So the way that Gage Dye Works dyes the yarn is that they do half of the skein in the solid contrasting like heel toe color, and then the other half of the skein is in the self-striping colorway. So you actually have to wind the ball a certain way with the contrasting yarn, the the toe, the toe heel cuff yarn in the middle. And so you pull from the middle for, you know, the toe and the heel and the sock and the cuff. I can't talk. And you pull from the outside when you're using the stripe part. So, hey guys, step one is done. I wound the yarn. So that's actually all of my knitting. It's just been busy. And as I said earlier, like, I've spent a lot of my time out in the woods doing foraging because this is just the big mushroom season right now. And the weather has been great. It's been raining so consistently, like every Saturday. I think tomorrow is the first Saturday in about a month where it is not going to rain, but we're supposed to get rain on Sunday. So the rain has made for really, really great mushroom foraging, which is amazing because last year it was so dry all through the fall. And I didn't have nearly as much time to go foraging. And the times that I went, it hadn't been raining. So I just wasn't having luck finding any mushrooms. But this year it's going so great. And I'm coming home with bags and bags of mushrooms every time I go out and putting them in my dehydrator and just stocking up on my dye materials for the upcoming months. So, speaking of yarn dyeing, let's go into dyeing for a bit because I have a collaboration that I want to share with you guys. So, if you guys have been following me on Instagram and keeping up with everything, you'll know that I have been doing a very special collaboration with Tabitha, my friend of 10 years now. Yesterday was actually Felix. I have a bunny that's trying to get into trouble. Yesterday was actually the 10-year anniversary of the day that my husband and I just showed up unannounced on her farm, realized that it was not open to the public place, at least not more than a couple days a year. And before we just drove away, we knocked on her door and she's like, "Can I help you?" I said, "I hear you have alpacas." And she was like, "I have mostly llamas, but we have some alpacas." And then she got dressed because she was still in her PJs. And then she took us on our own private tour of the farm. And we've gone to all of her open house events, or not all of them since, but very many, many of them. And yeah, we've been following her as her business has grown these past 10 years. And so as soon as she saw that I posted at the end of August that I got my DBA for opening my shop, my doing business as Stop, Drop, and Knit, and making everything official, no joke, like I had just come out of the courthouse and I posted that picture, or the county clerk's office, or wherever I was. I posted the picture and she immediately texted me and said, "Would you like to do a collaboration? Dye my yarn for me?" And I said, "Hell yeah, of course I would. Are you kidding me?" Her yarn is amazing. It is so good. And so we had a meeting and I made swatches of all my dye colors that I had done so that I could show her some examples. And we came out of that meeting and decided that what we were going to do was have a very exclusive monthly release of 20 skeins of yarn of hers that are naturally dyed by me. And so each month is going to feature a different dye material. And at first we were thinking we were going to keep it like a secret surprise release. But now we have decided that it's really much more interesting to take you all along on the process. And so if you've been following me, I have been posting quite a lot of the process for next month's kit, which is going to be using black walnuts. But I have the yarn that I dyed from this first kit, and so October 13th was our first release. Our next one will be November 10th, and you can only purchase this yarn through Tabitha. And so her website is at Long Island, where I think it's LIYF.co, but I think you can just search for Long Island Yarn and Farm and it'll take you to Long Island Livestock. She used to be Long Island Livestock and she rebranded as Long Island Yarn and Farm, which spells LIYF, L-I-Y-F. So we're calling our collaboration LIYF on Long Island. So fun. It's just such a dream. I have been a fan of Tabitha's yarns for 10 years. And so never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would dye any of her yarn myself. Like, this is just so amazing. So anyway, go follow Tabitha. She's super active through Instagram stories. And now I've been getting my butt into gear and being very active on Instagram stories as well. So we have a highlight reel on the stories where we've saved, at least I have, I don't know if she has done it yet, but on my Instagram, which is at Lisa Westervelt Flute Studio, you should look at the LIYF on LI highlight reel, and that will have everything related to November's club. We didn't think to do this until the second month, so there's nothing from October, but I wanted to talk to you guys about October. And while her yarn has sold out, the October club, because it's just 20 skeins, and that's not to make it super exclusive for any other reason than I am just one person in a small apartment with one stove and only 2 dye pots, and there's only so much yarn that I can dye all on my own in a month. And using natural materials is very different and much slower process than using dye extracts. So anyway, so for our first collaboration, you may have seen, we called it Sunken Forest Sassafras. And that is because for my birthday, Labor Day weekend, my birthday is September 5th. So over Labor Day weekend, I wanted to go to Sunken Forest, which is on Fire Island. And we live in Sayville, Long Island, which is the same town where the ferry is located to take over to Sunken Forest. So we had never taken the ferry from here. We moved here a year and a half ago. And even before that, we lived in Center Reach, which was only 10-15 minutes away from here. But literally now the ferry drive is a 3-minute drive away from our apartment. So I just thought that that would be a really fun day trip to do with my husband and my son. And so I was, of course, looking up dye materials. What can I find over there? Because they have this nice boardwalk through the Sunken Forest, and it's a really special ecosystem where it appears to be sunken because of the way that the sand dunes have trimmed the trees and blocked. I can't really explain it. I will direct you. You can, all right, if you look in the description box below, I'm going to send you guys a link to Tabitha's website where she has information that I typed up about it. I should also put it on my website too in a journal entry. I just haven't done that yet. So for now, since I don't think I'll get the journal entry written before I upload this podcast, I will just include a link to where I talked about it on Tabitha's website. But so I was trying to figure out what can I forage? It's a preserve area, so there's going to be a limit to what I'm allowed to collect legally. But bark from trees is really easy to obtain, because obviously you can't strip the bark from a tree, but there's lots of just trees that had fallen down naturally. And sunken forest, I thought I was going to be looking for black cherry trees, because I read that there was a lot of black cherry trees, and I know that black cherry bark can be used to naturally dye wool. So that's what I went there looking for. And then we didn't really find more than a couple of black cherry trees, and there was nothing that I was able to forage from the little that we did find. So that was out of the question. But what we did find a lot of was sassafras. Sassafras trees were everywhere. So I will include some pictures so that you guys can see what sassafras trees look like, because I didn't know. I'm only just learning my trees. I mean, I know the basics like pine trees and oak trees, but I can't tell you like the varieties or anything. But I was easily able to collect a lot of bark because, as I said, like just naturally trees have fallen down, and some of them, so I was limited really to whatever I could reach on the ground from the boardwalk, because they ask that you don't venture off the boardwalk because they are trying to preserve the area. But so I saw plenty of spots where there was a lot of bark just loose on the ground, and you know, it's just going to decompose. So there's no harm in taking wind-fallen bark. So I collected a whole bunch of the bark, and this is what the bark looks like from the sassafras tree. This is just one piece. I gave a couple of my really big pieces to Tabitha actually, so that she could share it too. So this is one piece, and that's what it looks like on the back. And you can see there's a little bit of a reddish tint to it. And this one here, I'm trying to find, there we go. If you look at that edge right there, you could see that there's a couple of chips away, and you can see a much brighter orange hiding underneath there. And that is the part of the bark that you want to get to produce the dye. So I had to chop all of the bark up into little tiny wood chips, and I had a lot of bark to work with. And so I tested it out on my own yarn first. So I have some of my own yarn that is already up on the website now, in my Luxe section, because I did restock my Luxe section that I had previously taken down, and I reorganized the yarn into kits. So you guys should check out my Luxe section, because I have exclusive one-of-a-kind kits of different sizes up, of colors of the rainbow that all go together. So you could either use them all together, or you could pick them apart and use a couple things together. Anyway, so some of that is up, and I also have been dyeing on a different sport weight base that is not yet in my shop, but will be coming soon. So this is what the sassafras looks like. It's a really beautiful orange that reminds me of pumpkin spice latte, and maybe that's just because right when I got the bark and started dyeing with the bark, the pumpkin spice lattes were like just starting to be in Starbucks again, and everything pumpkin spice, right? So yeah, and it's amazing how much this just looks like my pumpkin spice cold brew that I have been drinking recently. And so this is my new sport weight base that I just started testing out, and it's a beautiful, like peachy, kind of like a rusty peach. Like it's not like a pure peach, and this was actually using some of the afterbaths from the yarn that I did for Tabitha. And so now I wound this one up. Part of my deal with Tabitha was that I would dye 20 skeins for her, but I needed an extra for myself. So I'm dyeing 21 skeins so that I can keep one for myself. I just wound it up the other day because I want to knit with it. So this is Tabitha's yarn. This is her worsted weight base. And this is what our October Sunken Forest Sassafras color was. Kind of like this pumpkin spice latte, but I think not everybody likes pumpkin spice latte, so she came up with actually I think I came up with it because I titled the article that I wrote for her little information card to put on the website. I just titled it Sunken Forest Sassafras, and so that's what she called the yarn. So this is officially Sunken Forest Sassafras. And so I am now trying to figure out what I want to knit with it. But I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the club. So it's not like a subscription club where you sign up ahead of time. It releases on the day it releases, and it's first come, first serve. So the next one is going to be Black Walnut, and the release date is November 10th, and it will be available on Tabitha's website, and there's only going to be 20 skeins available. That one's going to be on her fingering weight base, and yeah, I think, what else do I need to tell you? There are extras included. So the extra things that we include are, we look for something local to Long Island, because the fun thing is that everything that I forage is right from Long Island, because I only use materials on my wool that I forage myself. I don't use any dye extracts or anything. So everything is going to be, from a pretty specific location on Long Island each month. And we are looking for other small businesses on Long Island to help support. And so Tabitha found a tea place. I don't remember the name of it, but she found a business who did tea, and she put a nice little tea package together, loose leaf tea with an infuser and a little llama charm. And then she included a free hat pattern, and I also recommended a few Ravelry patterns that would go with her yarn. So that's what we're going to be doing every month. So you'll get the yarn and something extra from Long Island, along with pattern recommendations to use for the yarn. So it's, it's like a little bit more, but it's just only 20. But I only can do 20 skeins of Tabitha's yarn, but I also am using like after baths, and because the thing is, for the club, I am trying for like my hardest to make the 20 skeins as consistent as possible. So that means that I'm basically using like the initial dye baths, and I can get, like, I was able to get 5 skeins in at a time. So I needed to do 4 different dye baths of 5 skeins each to come up with the 20 for Tabitha, plus one had 6 in it. Yeah, so that's basically how it's going to work. So that there might be 4 slightly different dye lots for the club, but they should still end up being pretty similar. But yeah, so I am also, of course, then I don't like to waste any of my dye materials, so I'm using the after baths for my own yarn. I mean, you can even see this one is pretty close in color to the one I did for Tabitha. So this will be coming into my shop. I'm not sure when, within the next few weeks, and I'm not sure if any of the skeins are going to be standalone or if I'm going to be making kits with some of my other like mushroom dyed yarns that I've been working on lately. So it's still kind of not decided how this is going to be available, but there are some sassafras skeins available in some of the kits that are in the Luxe section of my shop right now. So I think that is everything. I think I'm going to insert some pictures of the kits. I wanted to show you guys the actual yarn, but I got back to recording the video much later than I planned, and all of my yarn is in the bedroom and my husband is sleeping. So I might just stick up some pictures of all of the different kits that are available in the Luxe section, because last time I did the podcast, I had taken that whole section of yarn down and reorganized it. So I just want you guys to be able to see what is now available in the shop. So yeah, I think that's everything that I have. So kind of not a super long episode, not a whole lot of knitting this week because I've just been in the forest so much, but I've been happy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stick around to the end because I am going to put in some footage from my trips into the woods and my walks. There's been so beautiful recently on Long Island with all of the leaves changing. So I have a lot of really beautiful photographs that I have taken that I would love to share with you. So stick around and look at the beautiful pictures, and I will talk to you guys all very soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing your time with me. Until next time, bye.